What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. I hope you guys are excited for this video. This is going to be a full story arc video. This video contains issues 1 through 10 of Iron Man after the Krakoan era. This is Insurgent Iron Man. This is the Iron Man that tries to face against Victor Von Doom as Doom takes over the world. And so to take on Doom, he's going to have to do something he hates doing. Tony Stark is going to have to mess around with magic, with him creating a new improvised suit, facing against Doom, who is now Sorcerer Supreme. Tony must yet again do the unthinkable. Alright gang, so our story starts us off upstate New York at a Stark Unlimited compound. Right now we have the workers. They're preparing to unionize. But these workers are met by two guards. These guards were paid for a very specific job. The two of them transforming into wannabe Purple Hulks. They cause chaos. They go rampant. They start hitting people. Luckily today, Iron Man was headed to this facility, with him showing up on site. It does make note that he is not wearing his magic Mysterium armor, his anti-magic Mysterium armor. And the reason is because this is nothing more than a routine check-in. In all honesty, he wasn't expecting a fight. Using his repulsor rays, he's pushing these guys back. And it's very obvious that they don't want to fight with Iron Man. But this is where Tony heads over to the guy in charge of this whole organized protest against Tony Stark. But Tony's not here to bust any unions either. The guy that he got his company back from built weapons again. This is one of the factories that he opened. Ramon goes on to say that Tony's the reason that they're organizing, and they don't like the stuff that they make. They also make artillery shells, they make sentinels here, they've made all kinds of stuff in this factory. No one really cares in that regard though. They're here because they need a job, like everybody else outside. The question is, if you're gonna stop making weapons, what happens to everybody that works here? Now, Tony tries coming up with some ideas just off the top of his head, and Ramon tells him this is why we are unionizing. The truth is, we're an afterthought. You're so gung-ho on shutting down your weapons facilities, you're not necessarily thinking about the people, and you're just trying to rush together something that you can do for this and continue to make money. You've gone from you don't make weapons to you do make weapons, you make this, you make that. Tony tells them that you're right. Conduct your drive. We'll recognize the union, and then write down whatever the union wants this factory to do, we'll put it into contract. So whatever it is that you guys want to do here, whatever it is you want to make or manufacture, Tony's 100% on board, with him suiting up and heading off. He heads up into the sky, but his thrusters, they stop working as Tony free falls. He falls through the factory roof. And we pick up in Manhattan many weeks later. Tony Stark going through recovery. If Tony's being honest with himself, he's getting old. Recovery time is taking longer than it used to, longer than he wants it to. As he looks at his systems, he finds nothing wrong with his suit's propulsion, the fuel, or the data systems. So until he finds a true answer to this, all the Stark servers, they're running a global armor update. Every Iron Man suit is getting patched. Every suit that isn't offline and folded into a briefcase somewhere. And he even considers going back to a Neuralink interface, syncing the armor with his nervous system. But he also worries that in doing this, he could manipulate some things that could affect his dopamine supply. Being the man was an addict, he kind of wants to steer clear of this if at all possible. This is when he knows that he's got to take off. There's a board meeting that's about to happen and he has to be there. This is the first board meeting after getting control of Stark Unlimited again, with Tony showing up on site. He's meted by Jack Honing Jr. His father was Secretary of Defense when he was Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then there's Melinda May, former S.H.I.E.L.D. door kicker, aka the Cavalry. With Tony getting in here, he immediately throws out a pitch for them to do, what he calls Stark Booking, an app to bet on superhero fights. Minimal overhead, huge revenue, and they're gonna need a lot of revenue because Stark Unlimited is out of the weapons business for good. The board tells him that we have the best interest of Stark Unlimited at heart. With the arrival of AIM's Scientist Supreme, they made an offer. a highly lucrative offer. They're moving to acquire Stark Unlimited, doing so with their partners at Roxxon. All of this is based on the current share price, with Stark Unlimited being a weapons manufacturer. Now, Tony's immediate answer, of course, is hell no. Like, that's not gonna happen. But the board tells him that this is a vote. According to regulations, once the offer's on the table, their business operations freeze in place. Tony tries to tell them how insane this is. The truth is, the board doesn't care. What they see is power and dollar signs. So Tony going back to his apartment, you can imagine he's livid. He just got his company back from Fei Long, and he's already been checkmated. If he shuts down the weapons plants on his own, the shareholders will sue him. The board will oust him. He's outed no matter what, but it would just make the process a lot quicker. Jack Jr. signed a letter of intent with Roxxon and AIM to purchase the merger. Needing to clear his mind, there's an explosion out in the distance. Iron Man does not hesitate, he jumps into action. Someone's laundromat exploded. Thinking to himself that it's crazy Daredevil's not here, that he really doesn't go east of the park. But Iron Man being able to put out this fire relatively quickly, we see Iron Man attacked, with Tony completely caught off surprise. One of them chomping into Tony's knee. Tony knows that he's got to end this and he got to end it quick. He drops the two of them down, but when he looks around, what he sees is cameras. They are streaming this. This is how they're trying to make money. They're trying to monetize the fight with Iron Man. But their boss told them to take a punch, so that's what they did. Laughing at him, saying that you didn't even think about wearing your magic armor. Tying the two of them up, Tony takes off. This is when he finally pieces it together. Whatever shorted out his suit at the Sentinel plant, it wasn't mechanical sabotage. It wasn't malware. It was magic. That's why his diagnosis didn't catch anything. This is where he goes to get his Mysterium suits. But when Iron Man gets here, he's met by the Hulk wannabes. Knowing that he's got to put him down quick and get to that Mysterium armor. This is where he is met by Justine Hammer. She was thought to be dead. Iron Man, he's now confused, trying to figure out what the hell is going on, informing Tony that Roxxon has some very powerful allies in another dimension. They brought her back. They did so they could close the Stark deal. Tony saying that he doesn't really give a crap about any of this. He heads for his Mysterium armor, but Justine got to it first. The last component that she needed for Ironmonger. With her pressing a button on her sleeve, the suit forms around her, and the mech comes alive. Obviously, Tony's pissed. His armor's stolen from him. Justine tells Tony that this is no war, you have already lost. All your armor's about to be mine. Your whole weapons company will be mine. I already have all the board votes. Fei Long gave them the opportunity. He took Stark Unlimited back to its core, telling Tony that you've already lost. Because you know why your armor fell out of the sky? It's because Justine told it to. This is where she says armor drop, and we see Tony fall. Roxxon's extra-dimensional allies added some magical to the AIM malware. Those berserkers uploaded to the Stark servers at the Sentinel factory. If he had been wearing the Mysterium armor then, he would have been safe. Once he ran the global armor update, he made it hungrier. Now all of his suits have been gobbled up, leaving him here saying that we'll see you at the board vote. Tony, defeated, heads back to his workshop. He spent way longer in the hospital than he wanted to. He's neglected his company, his father's legacy, too long playing the hero. But she's about to learn that Roxxon and AIM are seriously undercapitalized. She said that this isn't another armor war, and Tony agrees. All their wealth, everything they have, he's gonna burn it down to the ground. This is the Stark-Roxxon War. This is what takes us into issue number 2. We're picking up with Tony Stark creating a new armor. Since essentially all of his armors had been compromised, he had to build something a little more analog, a little more steampunk. Picking us up in the desert, this is where we get a glimpse of it in full view. A new temporary armor until he can sort this whole situation out. Right now, he's having a conversation with Jack Jr. At the same time, we're also seeing some things pick up in the desert. Tony's really trying to get Jack Jr.'s votes, trying to convince him that this is all a bad idea, that Roxxon's infrastructure, it has enormous vulnerabilities. But at the end of the day, Jack Jr. is voting for this merger, because with Roxxon, they'll corner the world's energy markets and arm markets. With AIM, they'll be able to design the future. That is the big picture that he is looking at. Picking up with Melinda, this is Tony's next visit. A pipeline was recently attacked and she knows that Tony had something to do with it. They have footage of Tutara at the pipeline, but they don't have footage of Iron Man there. The running theory is that somehow Iron Man is sabotaging this because it's a Roxxon pipeline. Tony really wants to talk about the votes, but even she knows that she's only one vote, but she'll still be on the board, that she'll be some kind of break, working it from the inside, that's what she did with Fei Long when she was put on the board under him, saying that he had some truly perverse ideas that never made it off the drawing board. Now, this is where Tony goes on to let her know that, like, I'm sure you did everything you could, but while you were on the board, the Sentinels kept rolling off the factory lines. They were hunting, killing mutant children, women, men. That dismantling the machine from the inside hasn't really had the best track record. And he's not saying that she's Orcus or anything like that, but when the Calvary was inside Fei Long's boardroom, she didn't exactly take down Orcus. Taking off out of the office, he knows he could have left that better. He pretty much self-sabotaged the only vote that he had on this board. Currently in Aspen, Colorado, he heads off to AIM headquarters. As he approaches this place, he is met by Force. These two are getting ready to start just duking it out. But then Tony's invited inside. Our scientist supreme would like to have a conversation with him. Obviously, Tony, he wants to hear what she has to say. He's trying to figure out what the true intentions are here. She goes on to say that they're not trying to kill Tony or anything like that. I mean, maybe Justine Hammer is, but AIM is not. Saying that the Iron Man patents, that's what they're truly seeking, a value beyond money. But Tony goes on to say, like, I don't know what promises Justine made you, but there's simply no way Roxxon, no way Hammer is gonna let AIM control the designs of the armor, let alone the patents. She does say that the new company will honor Tony. But as Tony's listening to this whole conversation, he sees Dr. Druid. That's the traitor Justine was told about, asking for Iron Man's forgiveness, saying that he is not doing this by choice. Druid unleashes his power. Iron Man feeling like he is melting, he is breaking apart. Every fiber in his body feeling it. Torturing him mentally, going through everything, from his addiction to Emma Frost. And then he comes to. And everybody appears to be gone, all but Force. And when Force tries to attack him, Iron Man's trying to make a getaway. He's got a board meeting he has to be at in 45 minutes. One that is imperative he is at, because this is the vote. Force is doing everything he can to ensure that Iron Man doesn't leave. This is where Iron Man brings out his big gun. No repulsors is fine with him. He reaches onto his back and he pulls out one hell of a sword. The repulse sword is born and Tony is no longer playing around. He blew up the Roxxon pipeline so that he could build a giant ass sword. Hopping over to issue number 3, we pick up with the fight. The two of them battling it out. Right now though, Iron Man's batteries are running low. His energy is running out. This thing has to be charged every so often. Being able to put Force down long enough to make his getaway, he is able to make it to the board meeting just in the nick of time. Showing up and plugging himself in to charge himself up. He's gonna say his piece to the board, saying that some of you have already heard this from me. Some of you are on the Stark board because a genocidal racist named Fei Long put you here. That Stark Unlimited stands for something. The boldness to solve problems, not manage them or avenge them. The old-fashioned ingenuity. They rise above and show what the future can offer. They make things. They don't acquire their way to growth. They correct their mistakes. They stopped making weapons and scaled up to zero-emission energies. Stark Unlimited has global strategic importance. Roxxon and AIM, they aren't just taking a company backwards, they're endangering the world. But he tells them, I get the sense that you know this. So know this. I can't stop you from voting for this merger, but sooner or later, I will stop you. Now, the board, they obviously get defensive. They obviously get angry. Like, you're threatening us with the Avengers now. Is that what you're telling us? This is when Justine Hammer chimes in, saying that this has got to be difficult for you, Tony. But the closing details from their silent partner, membership of the Starkson board, guarantees access to a higher plane of existence, saying that she is living proof of their power. Roxanne worked with these benefactors to restore her from death. Tony saying that nobody's gonna protest this. Nobody has red flags. That he would advise against partnering with creatures from the nether realms who promise unlimited power. But he seems very obviously noticing that these guys, they've made up their mind. Power, money, success, they're all in. But to add insult to injury, they try to make Tony Stark strip out of his armor right here in the office. That the improvised armor does belong to them and it doesn't belong to Stark. Now, Tony, he quickly recognizes this isn't an issue that's going to be solved in court. He puts on his helmet. Justine Hammer activating the Ironmonger. This fight breaks out, with Ironmonger picking up a car with people inside of it. Iron Man is seeing this as an opportunity. This is a PR victory, to say the least. Iron Man saving a family, while board members from his company are actively trying to kill him and other people. This is when he breaks out the Repulse sword, taking that sword and laying down some hate. He puts the Ironmonger down into the ground. But even that hit wasn't enough to keep it down. They continue to battle it out, inevitably Iron Man getting the upper hand. This is when Dr. Druid shows up and says that Roxanne's silent partner has summoned you. This is what takes us down into the depths of hell, down in limbo. Iron Man's asking Druid what the hell is going on. Unfortunately, Dr. Druid had a debt. His quest for knowledge bound him to a dark broker who summoned them, the former mage of Limbo, Belasco. This is the middleman, but Belasco doesn't give up the information on who he speaks on behalf of. He only says that they are ancient beings, to think of them as an import-exporter, that they have been doing this for over a millennia, having everyone here at the board, all the board members sitting down, Justine Hammer thanking everyone for being here and saying that this does seem a little crazy. She told them all they are quite literally from a higher plane of existence, but now they're offering them all of this status to them to become more than human. When Melinda tries to pull up a gun and take her out right here, right now, Tony stops her. Tony stops her because Tony already has a plan in play, telling Melinda that if we shoot our way out of this, we lose no matter what. But after Justine does her whole little spiel, everybody's excited because they're going to be so wealthy. Iron Man says one word: scale. Scale is why this won't work. He's looking at the fundamentals here. Yeah, you achieve scale. You're just seeing what that means all wrong. Your kind of scale brings an Iron Man problem. It brings an Avengers problem. You're about to dominate the energy markets, the arm markets, and now apparently the soul poison markets. You have made yourself a global threat, the kind that Iron Man always stops. And he told you he was gonna stop you eventually. Belasco, of course, he laughs, like to pose that you could be any threat. He tells Druid, can you patch us through to your unfathomable clients? I'm sure they can play their version of prediction markets. Roxanne, AIM, and all their cronies always lose to Iron Man and his friends. You're asking beings on a higher plane of existence to bet on proven losers. So let me know how it works out. This is where Dr. Druid shows Belasco that many times Iron Man and the mighty Avengers defeated them, informing the clients. Belasco contacts the Exalted Ones, and they withdraw their support. The deal is null and void. Justine Hammer saying that she came back from the dead for all of this. Belasco saying not to worry. You they respect. You and Iron Man are free. But the rest of them, for misleading them, their souls are relinquished. They are taken over. Of course, they call out to Iron Man to save them. And so Iron Man says, listen up. This deal is on the table for the next 60 seconds. All of you vote right now to annul the merger. Then you resign from the Stark board. Then you send all of your Stark holdings to me. You sign them over to me. Instead of your souls, you just lose your money. And instead of the souls, the entities can have the anti-magic Mysterium Justine stole from him. Belasco saying that this is an acceptable alternative. The board unanimously voting yes. Telling Iron Man that the entities wish to keep the conversation open. He may keep their infernal malware inside the system, which the brooch will contain some of their signature magic. Taking us to New York City. Justine and Iron Man going in their separate directions, but Justine gives the brooch to Iron Man. The Mysterium may be gone from it, but there's much more to this brooch than just the Ironmonger. That is what is going to take him to the Scarlet Witch. Alright gang, we're picking up in Santa Monica. Tony is sitting here with Riri and they're going over the Ironmonger. The demon stripped out the Mysterium from it. But across all systems, this Ironmonger suit appears to be brand new. It has them wondering, why did they need the Mysterium? And to get Tony's armor back up and working again, all of his suits, they need to scrub Justine's magic malware off of the systems. Tony truly doesn't want to mess with any of this. Taking gifts from nether beings is how you become a Nazgul. They don't understand magic, so he consulted somebody else. This is where we have the arrival of the Scarlet Witch. And Wanda's telling Tony, I really wish that you had called me sooner, especially when we're dealing with this kind of magic. But she's gonna go inside the brooch. She's gonna find out what's going on. She's gonna talk to the Ironmonger magic. And when she touches that brooch, she is transported, taken to a dark land, filled with what appears to be dark souls, and a dark shadow Iron Man. And with Wanda returning, she tells Tony that this brooch, it gave her way more trouble than she expected. This magic is formidable, and whoever conjured it, she doesn't like that they know about Earth. This is far beyond someone like Belasco could ever safely wield. That means Tony definitely can't wield it. Asking if the magic is in all the Ironmonger systems, she says that it doesn't exactly work like that. The Mysterium acted as a stabilizer. That allowed the suit's dark energy to flow. That is why she needed the Mysterium. No longer having a stabilizer and housing more magic than she's comfortable having in this garage. At this point, she assumes if someone wears the suit, you can expect the magic to flow. But she reiterates to Tony, under no circumstance should you wear this armor. It will corrupt the wearer. Later that evening, Tony and Riri sitting down trying to figure out how to get the malware out of the system. She's telling Tony that she connected the Ironmonger to the servers. And what they see is the Monger magic is eating up the magic worm's infection. The Monger magic is counteracting the magic worm. Riri believes this is how they get their armor back online. Clear the servers and then update all the armors. Tony very hesitant to do so, texting the Scarlet Witch, making sure that this is going to be on the up and up, and this isn't going to be crossing any too many lines. As he's looking at the system, he sees that the Monger can connect through the Stark servers to any Stark facility very quickly, all except one part of his facility, and it is asking for shield credentials. Suiting up and heading out, they head to Melinda. Now, Melinda's more or less off the board of Stark Unlimited at this point. She's cleaning up her office right now. So obviously when Tony and Riri show up, she's not happy to see them, especially considering they're wearing their armor. But Tony wants to know about this facility, about why it is asking for shield credentials. Melinda kind of laughing, saying that he doesn't even remember doing what he did. When he ran S.H.I.E.L.D., he set up a purchasing backdoor. This was to streamline things to Stark Tech, to get it directly onto the helicarrier. When Melinda looks at this system real quick, when she sees the identification of the person accessing this, they head out immediately. They head to the factory, and who they find is Agent 33. Her name, Cara Palamas. After S.H.I.E.L.D. fell, she founded a private security company of S.H.I.E.L.D. vets. Unfortunate for her, the cavalry has shown up. The three of them jumping into action, it doesn't take long to put Agent 33 down. Now it's time to get some answers. What they find out through Riri's AI is that this place was headed to Chicago. All of these containers, all of these weapons, eventually giving up the information that they are using Stark surveillance tech to do what S.H.I.E.L.D. wouldn't let them do. They are saving Chicago legally, as she would say. The three of them waste no time in heading off to Chicago, an old place that his father had purchased years ago. They're not really sure what to expect. The three of them coming down and breaking into this facility. Who they run into is Lucia von Bardis, once the right hand to Victor Von Doom. She stands before the three, and at her back is a Stark Sentinel. This is what takes us into issue number 5. Lucia letting them know that she is going to save Chicago. Riri headed off to save as many people as she can while Tony holds her off. We have the cavalry holding off all the minions. Latveria apparently funded a repulsor absorption upgrade, and so her robotic body has the ability to really fire back at Tony. Now Tony, we've seen him, he looks ragged right now. A lot of people commented on his condition, on his state, on how he looks. You gotta remember, man, he's been in the hospital multiple times over like the last 2 months. His body's still weak, he is still healing, but he keeps throwing himself into the fire like he is right now. Not being at 100%, he feels it. Right now, he's on the verge of passing out. Using his armor, he charges right at her. Meanwhile, Riri is trying to rescue Xavier. Xavier had gotten picked up by these goons, kidnapped, and brought here. He has no idea what's going on, but when Riri lays down some hate, one of them still conscious. She wants to know what the hell they're doing. He goes on to say that after Wilson Fisk had found Jesus and cut them off, the robot lady staked them in an ability to be able to buy this warehouse and open up shop to clean up the city how they see fit. This is where Riri turns and goes and helps Iron Man. The three of them getting up on their feet. Melinda, Riri, and Tony stand toe-to-toe against her. Now Lucia, she has been livid because she blames Iron Man for so much. His weapons have caused so much damage, so much hurt. Tony goes on to argue that he didn't make weapons for S.H.I.E.L.D. back then, but she's not referring to the weapons, she's referring to the satellite arrays, the data mining, the geolocation software. When it comes to the machinery of order, the best weapons don't shoot, they capture, they store, they assimilate, they target the foundations of freedom, until Latveria's only choice was between Doom and America. Riri letting Tony know that they can overload her. We see the blast from the repulse sword, and Lucia just vaporizes. Riri like, oh damn, like did we just kill her? And they kind of just like, you know, she was what she was and we did what we had to do in this situation. But Tony lets Melinda know that she did really great out there, that she really pisses Tony off. But maybe that's a good thing, asking if she'll stay on the board. But that's the last thing she wants to do. She believes she needs to be doing this. The collapse of S.H.I.E.L.D. means that the mercenary field is flooded with prior S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, some only doing it for a paycheck. She wants to be able to offer these guys a better opportunity, a different direction, and Tony needs a new head of corporate security. Tony does believe that Lucia was right. She wasn't wrong about the surveillance suits that he brings to the market. His gear got here by irresponsibility, his own, his inattention to who had access. That it was developing and selling cutting-edge surveillance gear in the first place. But this is when the Stark Sentinel comes online. Lucia has uploaded herself into the Sentinel, Tony's dumb AI, referring to it as Lucentinel. And the banter between Tony's dumb AI and Riri's sophisticated AI is hilarious throughout this, because Riri's is essentially saying like, damn, your AI is so dumb, bro, like what are you doing? But with the Sentinel coming online, we see it break out of the building, and this is where Riri jumps into play, using pin particles. she enlarges herself, and it is Titan versus Titan. As they battle, what we see is Riri do a little trick here, hitting the Sentinel with some gas. We see the Sentinel shrink down into the size of their palm. In an instant, this fight is over. And Melinda saying that there's not going to be any more prisons for her, throwing her into a pin version of a Faraday cage. She's going to be locked up for a while. Tony saying that there's only one thing left to do now that this warehouse is empty. They let the people choose what to do with it. Riri's AI ejecting some repulsor discs, keeping them networked together. So if he charges them up with the repulse sword, it would be like Fred said, power to the people. Things are about to change for Tony. None of this should have gotten to this point. He shouldn't have let it. So when the board meets next month, getting them out of weapons manufacturing is just the start. But before that happens, he's got to upgrade his armor, and Doom is about to conquer the world. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we're picking up in the Russian province of United Latveria. Tony Stark has arrived. He sits down with the commander. Today, they talk revolution. And as they sit down, our commander, he goes on to explain what they really want, obviously, is an Iron Man suit. They are the Latverian Patriotic Front, the LPF. They know what it takes to fight this. They are the resistance that stands against Doom. And Tony really does start this off by letting him know, if we're gonna get this started, if we're gonna have conversation, know right off bat, there is no way in hell you are ever getting an Iron Man suit. What he does offer them is a way to get around bank sanctions, information to log into a bottomless crypto wallet, being able to mine coins at arc reactor speeds. And our commander, he looks at this and then asks Tony to come outside with him. When they go outside, this is where we see a man with a bag over his head, Vishta Taryu, telling Tony that he was part of the Liberation Front, but he broke ranks. He cultivated a forbidden power. He needs to know that Tony isn't gonna break ranks. He tells him to draw your sword and kill him, even offering Tony up a pistol, telling Tony that you're an Avenger. You must have killed before. The path that we tread, it is going to require us to kill again and again. They know that Doom will not be overthrown innocently, that if we hesitate, we will die. There is only one path to victory. This is when Tony says to tell me more about this path, that we can always come back out here, but before we kill anybody, I need to know what the hell I'm buying. And so when they go back inside, he explains the whole plan. The commander knows that a frontal attack on Doom is suicidal. What they need is Stark missiles. He may have purged the officer corps, but there are still those that are loyal, those that won't bend a knee, they won't submit to Doom. And so when the time comes, a lot of the army is ready to stand up and fight. But he doesn't want Tony to sell these missiles to him. He wants Tony to sell these missiles to Doom. The missiles will reside in the depots of their allies. First artillery will ring, their infantry will march upriver, show the army that it's theirs, not Doom's. He knows that Doomstad can really stand up to a siege, it can withstand. But this is the point. They want Doom to retreat, to stay hidden in his castle. He believes that Latveria, they'll take away the power from Doom, that the people separated from their heartland, the heartland separated from their army, would be unbearable, that they would blame Doom for this. And Tony does warn that you expect to be treated like liberators. Something in the West that we learned, that's not always the case. But he swears that Latveria will stand with the army. In the midst of this discussion, there is a giant explosion. Both Tony and the commander sent flying. And who we have showing up is none other than the Winter Guard. Red Widow and her team are here Today they have come to kill an Avenger for defiling the motherland, the united Latvian province of all the Russias, for collaborating with fascist traitors to their Emperor Doom. Today, the Winter Guard kills Iron Man. Or so they think. What they didn't know is that Tony upgraded his armor. So when the Crimson Dynamo charges in on Tony, the Dynamo is knocked quickly out of the sky. Same with Red Widow. Same with Ursa. Ursa Major taken out just as quickly. While Tony is scrambling up on a hilltop nearby, we have Black Widow. The Winter Guard focusing all their attention now on her. Iron Man's wondering what the hell she's doing here. And she came to check on him, to see what he's doing, how he's doing things, to save him from himself. Saying that they'll talk about this on the Quinjet, but they gotta get out of here. As they leave, they also grab Vishta, the kid that was gonna be assassinated by the commander, grabbing him and making their escape. We see Red Widow talking to the commander, telling him that he must leave at once, that she'll be unable to protect him on the soils of the united Latvian province of all the Russias, but also warning that should you make a deal with Iron Man, you will never reign over Latveria, because Russia will never tolerate NATO influence, that Latveria will never know peace if you have Tony Stark as your backing. Taking us onto the Quinjet, we pick up with Widow and Tony, and Widow's really just saying, I don't recognize you. I don't recognize your behavior. I don't recognize how you're acting. Right now, you're sponsoring a terrorist group, that you're my friend and I care about you. She wants them to stick to the plan. Trust in the Avengers. We will win like we always do. But right now, Tony's faith in that is shaken. They're losing. Every moment they spend trying to plan, they lose more. The battlefield isn't static. Every day becomes more dangerous. A man like this will not be overthrown innocently. Doom has destabilized them, and Tony knows that LPF isn't the best option, but they are the only Latvian opposition right now as it stands. If Latvians rise, they shatter his illusion. He becomes a tyrant again, not a savior. Natasha tries to warn that you don't understand what destabilizing governments truly does, but she does. Every day she wishes she didn't. She tells him to have faith in Earth's mightiest. Thanking her for this information, thanking her for this pep talk, putting him back on the right track. When he shows up at his board meeting the next day, he didn't adhere to any of it. He tells the board that they are getting back into the weapons business. And that is what will take us into issue number 7. The news has gone out to the world. Tony Stark is making weapons again. As the people cheer, the people excited, at least the people that are invested in Stark Unlimited, because they're about to make some money. This is what takes us back over to Stark Tower. Iron Man sporting one of his older suits when he's moving around the city. For whatever reason, Tony is not ready for the Avengers or anybody else to see his new suit. This could be because of everything he's doing. He's worried the Avengers are going to come after him. He needs to have a trick up his sleeve for when that day comes. But he's got bigger problems at play when he gets to Stark Tower, because Melinda May, aka the Calvary, she's pissed. Tony insulted her, threatened her. She got taken to a hell dimension, fired, all to stop this company from making weapons, and now Tony's announcing that they are now making weapons. Add in the fact that she's head of security. She's Tony's right hand now. So this is the kind of information that she believes Tony should be telling her. And so, agreeing, understanding where she's coming from, he takes her inside and he's like, all right, it's time you learn the plan. Showing a map of Latveria, he begins telling her everything, starting with the Latvian Patriotic Front, the only organized Latvian opposition to Dr. Doom. But this isn't him necessarily helping a coup. They're gonna arm Doom. They don't need the LPF to win. They don't particularly want them to win. They're not a great group of individuals. The things they have done, not necessarily the people you want in charge. But Tony needs them to fight a long war. Months, years if it takes that. That is victory. If Doom can't hold Latveria, he can't hold the world. That's where the cavalry comes in. He needs her as a liaison between Tony and the LPF. He cannot interact with them directly. Obviously, all of this is off the books. The Avengers don't know about it, none of them can know about it. And also, they have a Black Widow problem. So he needs somebody that can hold her own against Black Widow. That would be the cavalry. With her being on board with this plan, this is when they are interrupted. Latveria's champion, Victorious, has come in. She has come for the sword, or the head of Tony Stark. Ignoring the summons of Latveria, of the Emperor, Iron Man quickly suits up, ensuring that the cell phone service in this area is blocked out. This way, nobody can send out a live stream of Tony doing anything in this new suit. And we see that Vishta, he's more than just some kid that was gonna get executed. He is, at least by appearances, a mage, a magic wielder, using his powers trying to chain up Victorious. A wielder of the power cosmic cannot be held down by such chains. Breaking free of them, her and Tony go toe-to-toe, and Tony recognizing that it is true. She has the power cosmic, which means Tony doesn't have to hold back. Hitting her with a full blast, hitting her with the repulsor. She falls out of the sky, and when she comes to, Tony is waking her up, doctors surrounding her, and Tony's letting her know, like, you're all right, but there's a lot going on here, a lot that you need to understand. Tony asking for the opportunity to explain what's going on, how this is all gonna work. The two of them sit down, they have a conversation. Tony acknowledges that Doom is Emperor of the World, a fact he recognizes. But that leaves one big question. If this is the way of the world now, then what is Stark Unlimited's relationship to Emperor Doom? Of course, she's gonna say that all of this is under the sovereignty of Doom. This is all his. So Doom has to beg the question, are you seizing Stark Unlimited? Is my company to be the property of Emperor Doom? Should I die, me and you having a rematch? We're the world's largest supplier of zero-emission energy, its leading technology company, and once again, its most advanced defense contractor be taken by the Empire, while the global financial markets simply watch. Now, at first, she's a little confused at what he's getting at. And what he's getting at is, does Emperor Doom wish to tell the entire capitalist world that it's over today? That the world's most influential people stand to lose everything? Because when they see the head of Tony Stark, they'll think that this united Latverian guillotine is coming for their head next. Has Emperor Doom come to end capitalism? And if the answer is no, then we have to figure something out. She tells Tony that you're a subject of Doom, but something that Tony's come to learn, that if he were to cancel all of his contracts with various national militaries around the world, also all subjects of Doom, then several of those militaries would consider themselves to be at the peak of their strength, meaning that would be their last chance to rid themselves of Doom. The truth is, Tony doesn't want to sell weapons. Tony has to sell weapons. This is how they maintain the balance of power in this new empire. That it's all cute and fun that Doom outlawed war, but peace under a new global order doesn't just emerge. Victor has just provoked challenge at scale, explaining that thinking among the new subjects, all this could lead to war if he were to dump their contracts. The best he sees it, there is only one way to part with them, to avoid war. Him doing this, selling these weapons, reassures the markets, prevents global instability. All of this by making Stark Unlimited the provider of technological energy, defense infrastructure for all of United Latveria. Victorious insulted for Doom. She lashes out that it was a mistake to parlay with a dead man. He tries to explain that now that Doom is Emperor, Taking the weapons off the market is like pulling a pin from the grenade. Doom doesn't want to start his regime with bloodbath. This is the only way to defuse it. That Doom, backed by Stark weapons, every military in the world would have no choice but to accept Doom. He doesn't expect Doom to trust him. Trust that he doesn't want war. Victor knows this to be true. Stark Unlimited is a strategic resource. They are crucial for energy, for technology, for defense. By cornering all of these, it secures his position. Any trust after that, they'll have to build. And his olive branch is Tony Stark bending a knee. That Victor will have to understand his public need to stand with the Avengers. But as their relationship develops, Victor may find that relationship to be useful. Victorious, taking this information to Doom, telling him to stand by for his decision. This is the beginning. The rebellion has started. Tony Stark goes to dethrone an emperor. Taking us over to issue number 8. We pick up in Iraqi Kurdistan. We have our commander meeting up with Melinda, selected as the personal liaison between Tony Stark and the LPF, sitting down, having a drink, renting out the entire hotel. This is where they discuss. This is where they plan. This is where they begin to learn how to fight. But while they sit down to have this discussion, they are quickly interrupted yet again by the Winter Guard. As the Winter Guard descends down on the cavalry, we pick up with Tony and Vishta, and we're learning a little bit about Vishta. He's a self-taught mage. His whole goal, obviously, is to take down Doom, but he's got a long way to go before he can actually take Doom down. While the two of them have a conversation, we do see the consequences of him using magic. That this magic, it comes with a toll, as his face begins to crack and a bright glow from behind it shines. This is the consequence of him using that magic. While they have this conversation, Tony gets a notification. One of his facilities, the Union, is striking again. This is a problem that he had just dealt with. Now he has to go figure out what the hell's going on. Suiting up and heading out, he arrives to yet again some bodyguards beating up the locals, beating up the employees. So when Tony shows up, he's got to take the head guy down. Wondering, like, Melinda, what the hell were you thinking hiring these guys? Squashing all of this, getting some civility back to the situation, he grabs Ramon and takes him inside and says, "Me and you, we're having a talk." Now, Ramon's the guy he talked to in the past. Talked to about squashing all of this, starting the Union up, and really getting things going again. Tony's trying to figure out what the hell went wrong. And what went wrong is that nobody came to talk to them. Tony made a lot of promises, but then he ended up in the hospital. He ended up with Doom taking over the world. He was so busy, he was unable to focus on what he promised. And Tony admits that you're right. This one's on me. Consider the contract proposal that you sent over ratified. We will finalize it and be done with it, but I need you guys to get back on this line. Like, war could break out if we're not making missiles. But Ramon just doesn't care. And Tony, he tries to explain, like, I don't want to do this, but those missiles have to come online. Whether it be you or me automating this entire factory. Obviously, he gets defensive, saying that you're gonna fire all 800 people. Are you out of your mind? That's you saving us from Doom. He tells him no matter what, we're not working another minute without a contract. And the price just went up. That their walkout fund, they just got a huge donation, so they got time. Now, when Tony hears that they got a huge donation, he goes to exactly who's responsible for it. He knows who did this. He goes to Black Widow, with her in Midtown pretending to be an old lady. When she sees Iron Man coming in, that old lady turns into a gymnast and starts shooting at Iron Man. Finally getting her to calm down, Tony has a conversation. More, it's Natasha saying, "I need you to listen to me. What you're doing is gonna get innocent people killed. You don't want to hear that, but it's true. You don't like the alternative, which is let the Avengers handle it. And you want to blame me for what happened at your factory today because I deposited money into their bank account. But all she did is move money. That's all she needed to do. So ask yourself why 800 employees of yours were so ready to strike. You don't want to be an arms dealer, Tony, so shut it down." The next time she comes back, she says she's coming back with the Avengers. so don't make her come back. Tony's showing back up to the factory and sitting down with these guys. Vishnu had been having a conversation trying to figure out what their best option is, and they came to a conclusion. What Ramon wants is a board seat, a say in what happens with the company. Now at first, this is really hard for Tony. He just got control of his company back, but Ramon doesn't think that he's asking for too much. Telling Tony, you're a man that was born rich. You parlayed that into more wealth. Even if you took your Iron Man suit off, you would still be one of the most powerful men in the world. Now you're telling me that having a say in this company, which you told me I would have, is asking too much. The same company that needs us to make weapons. The same company that would get rid of us when we show our strength. This is when Tony says 3 seats. The board has 8 seats now. They'll sign the contract and reserve 3 seats on the board for the union. They shake hands and Tony takes off. Now, Vishta is kind of confused, kind of shocked. Never thought he would see a CEO sign away his company like that. But the way Tony sees it, he didn't sign away control. He shared it. Ramon was right, not just about Stark Unlimited. They cannot free the world from doom and just go back to the status quo. The status quo failed people that were like Ramon. So if there's ever gonna be any kind of change, that change has to come from people like Tony. People with the position and power to make change. And when Tony gets the notification from Red Widow that she has Melinda, that she has the commander, Vishta, inspired by Tony, inspired at his selflessness, his ability to tuck away his ego for the betterment of everybody, Vishta says that he is going to be the savior now. Stepping up, our mage is here to kick some ass. Alright gang, so as we hop into this issue, we're picking up with Tony and Vishti. Vishti is the man that he rescued that was about to be executed by the Latvian resistance. Tony's taking off and we're getting this kid's backstory. We pick up with the young boy saying goodbye to his parents. His parents have been arrested. Vishti's father telling him that today is a glorious day. Today is the day that we return home. The father and mother have been intelligence agents in the service of the motherland, of the rightful lord, Victor Von Doom. They tell him that his name is not Vishti Taryu. His name is Artem. His father longed to call him by his Latvian name, but S.H.I.E.L.D. had discovered them, arrested them. He had been detained, the parents taken away, but Doom gave them their lives back. As they return to Latvia, Doom greets his spies. But we kind of see glimpses of Vishti unlocking his powers, unlocking the magic that he has at his will, the man he would become versus the kid that he was. It appears that Vishti made his way to hell, and in hell, he found somebody with power, somebody that would help him destroy, take down, incinerate Victor Von Doom. This is what picks us up with the Red Widow. We have the Winter Guard that is holding the cavalry and some others in here. They have no intention of killing Agent May. In fact, they plan on putting her up for ransom, as in the commander. They're probably gonna help him finance his rebellion. But the Winter Guard, Russia, they want nothing to do with the Americans. That if we're going to fund you, you can't work for the Americans. Agent May really does try to convince him that siding with them isn't gonna be your best bet, because they will dime you out. They will throw you under the bus quick, fast, and in a hurry if it is in their best interest. The commander isn't necessarily seeing it that way. That even with the cutting edge missiles that Stark may offer, the problem is the people. The problem is the optics. Red Widow saying that the Winter Guard will be there by their side when the time is right. With these discussions ongoing, we see the arrival of Black Widow and the Winter Soldier. They come in quickly, catching them off guard. They're able to take down Vanguard. They're able to take down Ursa, coming in, smashing through this window. Black Widow and Red Widow go toe-to-toe. Before Dynamo can get into his armor, Bucky is already kicking down the door. But during all of this commotion, the commander gets a phone call. The rebels, they believe that Doom must have found them. He must have located them. Because everything is burning. Dark magic is lighting the entirety of Latveria ablaze, screaming for everybody to stop fighting. we see something happening to the people of Latveria. Absolute chaos is breaking out. Fiery explosions, dark magic taking over people's minds. Immediately, Red Widow is like, this was Stark. But Agent May, Black Widow, they're all saying that there's no way. This was magic. Doom is Sorcerer Supreme. Tony wouldn't do something like this even if he could. Bucky hopping into the Dynamo's armor. When Ursa tries to make a move on Black Widow, even though all the fighting is stopped, Dynamo punches Ursa in the face. Bucky figured that Dimitri wasn't using his armor, so why the hell not? Now, while they're trying to figure out what the hell is going on, what their next move is, and what they're gonna do, there is a huge explosion. And with this explosion, we have Vishti, we have Iron Man, and we have Victorious. Victorious telling all of them to shut their mouths. Iron Man told them that these guys were collaborating with terrorist traitors. At first, she thought that this was American disinformation, but now she sees the truth. Now they will answer for their crimes. Black Widow trying to tell Tony that we came here to stop this. We want to know what the hell's going on. Iron Man seeing that Bucky is in the Dynamo. Amidst all the confusion, Red Widow jumps out the window, not wanting to take any chances here. Red Widow's like, I'm dipping out, I'm getting out of here, and I'm doing it. I'm doing it before anybody can catch up to me. Unfortunately, Iron Man and Dynamo, they go chasing after, but Iron Man isn't going to be doing any of the demolishing. Iron Man transferring over pieces of his armor onto the Dynamo, giving Bucky that extra little boost, hitting Red Widow with a blast, looking as if he is about to go do some heavy damage. Iron Man is able to stay his hand, taking the armor back. Bucky felt the surge of energy, the surge of power, and he's asking Iron Man, what the hell is that suit? That rage he felt. He has only ever felt that after his activations as the Winter Soldier. Wanting to talk about this more, we pick up with the members of Winter Guard being apprehended. But when Vishti shows up, he shows up with the head of the commander. He throws it to the ground, and he tells Iron Man that he had to die. Of course, Victorious is like, you know what? I agree. Good job. But she takes the Winter Guard and she heads out of here, of course, leaving a very ominous threat behind if she finds out that Iron Man is double-crossing them in any way. Now that they are gone, both Natasha and Bucky are like, what the hell, bro? Explain to us what is going on. You're arming Doom, the guy who nuked Shelbyville and blamed it on me. And Tony says that I haven't done any of that. I haven't armed Doom, at least not yet. This is a double cross. He had contacted Victorious after Red Widow kidnapped Agent May and the commander. It was his only play on the table at the time. In the LPF, instead of setting them up to die through attrition fighting Doom. But then they saw all those explosions. Victorious teleported them here. All the death. Doom still in power. Plan B. Doom still buys the weapons. He can put the Ironmonger's magic malware into the systems. And Bucky's straight up like, bro, you're out of your mind if you think I'm gonna let you go to a plan B. After everything that's happened, everything that you've done, there's no way in hell you're doing a plan B. And Natasha says that I warned you. I told you not to get involved with these monsters. What were you thinking? But Bucky understands. When Tony put those parts of his armor onto him, he felt so angry. He felt the rage. And so he asked Tony, what is that armor? Did you know what it would do to me? This is when Vishti chimes in, saying that he didn't know. The armor is the Ironmonger. Spells run through it. Dark magic runs through it. It is as the Scarlet Witch warned. The spells corrupt the wearer of the armor. Tony thought that if he used only pieces of the armor, he might be able to control it. He might be able to manage it. He needed the power. The improvised armor just simply wasn't powerful enough not to stop Doom. But Vishti tells him that you don't need to blame yourself. that you are a hero and I will save you. This is when he takes the dark magic and the armor from Iron Man. Vishti borrows the power, enough power to wipe Doom from existence, enough to reign in Latveria. Iron Man looking up at him and thinking, what have you done? Vishti saying that I told you, I'm saving you. I'm saving you from being an arms dealer ever again, while we save the world from Dr. Doom. All it cost were Latverians who served Doom. Like Iron Man had said, Doom will not be overthrown innocently. And Vishti has just done the unthinkable. He just killed hundreds of people in Latveria. He says that he killed all of them to save Tony, to save Latveria. He tells Tony Stark that this is what victory looks like. And he will fully admit that this is horrible, that this is something we should never grow accustomed to. It is not something that fills him with pride. But now, real victory is at hand. This is where we see Vishti really take on Ironmonger in its full form. Ironmonger with a little bit of magic added to it. Unintentionally recreating the Ironmonger, bringing it back into life, bringing back an enemy, doing it with the best of intentions. But as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. At this point, most of Doom's army's gone. Vishti did a rather significant job. The only problem is the loss of innocent life. In his eyes, this is what Tony wanted. This is what they talked about. Lives were gonna have to be sacrificed. Because honestly, people were gonna die regardless. When the Latverian Patriotic Front was gonna use his missiles for the long war against Doom, many innocent lives were gonna be lost. You could even argue that more Latverian lives would die there than they did today. And when the cavalry charges in, we see him essentially melt the knife that she throws at him. And Vishti's in rather disbelief. You got the cavalry, you got Black Widow, you got Tony Stark. You three sit here and you try to judge me. You question my methods after all the innocent lives that you guys have taken. And let's not even get started on the Winter Soldier. But the corrupting phones, that wasn't really the point of all of this. What mattered was getting the undetectable Ironmonger magic onto Doom servers, routing the magic to the army units working with the LPF. The energy drains from the inside. His argument is that he was targeting soldiers, ones that were working for Doom, and before that collaborated with racist terror groups. But Bucky, he saw children burning. He saw the innocent lives lost. And that is because this virus that he spread, it spreads on contact with the infected unless it is stopped. And though he tried to stop it, he wasn't powerful enough to do so. And he swears that once this is over, once this is all done, he will turn himself over to the people of Latveria. But only once Doom is dead. He had no intention of trying to rule Latveria, but this is how they solve their Doom problem. They do it once and for all, that they can save the world. They can do it all this way. He really thought that this is what Tony wanted. Now at this point, Tony's heard enough. His helmet goes on, his sword is drawn out, and he's ready to fight. He tells Vishti that is the last time you're gonna tell me what I wanted, and now you're gonna come with us, you're gonna face justice, or I'm gonna cut you out of that armor. Now we see that Vishti, he doesn't want to fight, that he'll commit to accountability. He will face any justice that he needs to, but they have to kill Doom first. At this point, Bucky, he's heard enough. He's like, you're not listening. Whoever you are, whatever you think you're up to, you're not getting any options. Your victims didn't get any options, you're not getting any either. And so when he goes in to punch, the armor around him, it completely melts away. Vishti looks at him and he's like, the Winter Soldier. Of all people, the Winter Soldier is gonna tell me that I have blood on my hands. He says that if you oppose me, then you're saving Doom. But all they can see is a psychopath wizard whose melted face is hidden behind armor. All while he talks about ruling Latveria. Right now, he's looking a lot like Doom. When he goes to attack Bucky, that's when Iron Man jumps in, using his repulsor sword, blocking the magic, absorbing the magic. Now, this is where Tony's like, all right, like, I think I can see what you meant to do, but at this point, you gotta stop. I won't be able to save you. That's where Vishti says, I'm sorry. Like, he's begging, he's pleading Iron Man, I don't want to fight you. I want to fight beside you. I want to take down Doom with you. And the others with Tony, they're a little confused on Tony's methods. Like, what do you mean you're gonna save him? At this point, he's already too far gone. We're far past what you meant to do. But Iron Man also takes responsibility here. Vishti thought he was doing what Tony wanted. Tony is the one that set the tone for all of this. One that he should have realized would have led a desperate young man to thinking that anything was permissible when fighting against Doom. Not only that, he understands the magic that is coursing through the Ironmonger. Without that magic in his veins, he can see a lot more clearly. The darkness is great right now, but there is help on the other side of this. The first step is accepting responsibility. This is when we have a doorway open up. A portal to Limbo opens up and we have Belasco. It appears that Vishti, he cut a deal. Doom is Sorcerer Supreme. Vishti needed more power. This is why the Ironmonger isn't corrupting him, isn't destroying him. Belasco gave him the power he needed. The power to manipulate the Ironmonger magic. Belasco is working for the Dark Consortium. He is their broker, and they have been seeking a earthly partner with sufficient scale to import Soul Bomb. That is where Vishti comes in, proposing to make himself king in Latveria. They could get souls. Now Vishti tries to explain himself. Tony saw firsthand what Belasco's clients' magic can do, what their product does. It hollows someone out until they're living tinder. And this isn't about the size of a market. It isn't about how many souls they can get. It's about scale of assets claimed once the product clears way and their former stewards land. This is all about resources, all about influence. So Vishti didn't just kill all those people. He sold the survivors to a demonic version of private equity. That's when Tony pulls out his repulsor sword and he blasts Vishti. And we watch as the two battle across the realms of Limbo. Vishti swears that he was never gonna give the Nether Beings Latveria, that it was all just a leverage play. He just needed the power to take down the Sorcerer Supreme. And after that, he planned to take the power of the Sorcerer Supreme so that he could fight the Dark Consortium. As the two of them battle, we see Tony's armor slowly starting to chip away. And Tony tells him, like, your plan. You sit here and act like it's flawless, but if it doesn't go flawlessly, everyone in Latveria would die, and then the rest of the world would follow. He tells Tony that you have to stop, that I'm not gonna tell you again, don't make me take you down. But Tony tells him, like, you think you can kill Doom when not even Dormammu could take it down. You think that you can hold back the Dark Consortium. You couldn't even stop your spells from spreading to other people. As Tony's armor begins to melt apart, he tells Tony that for the first time, I finally saw someone with real power distribute it. You gave me hope, Tony. You had principle, purpose, resources. You fused all this into a sword at the enemy's throat, only for you to turn around and save Doom. And so as you lie here in hell for eternity, I want you to reflect upon your mistakes. That even without the Ironmonger, you could have upgraded your armor. You could have withstood me. You could have fought beside me. He never wanted it to be this way. And as he goes to finish him off, Tony tells him, like, yeah, I didn't put much into my new armor. I put everything into the sword. With that sword absorbing every bit of that magical energy that he's hurling at Tony. Tony deflects it right back at him, and we see Vishti fall from the sky. And as they return, obviously, Belasco, he's pissed. This is the second time that Iron Man has come in and cost him business. But he tells him, like, if you really want to try something, Belasco, my repulse sword is more than enough charged to take you on. And it's charged up with your client's power. He tells Druid, like, talk some sense into Belasco before I start cutting out the middleman. This is where Druid connects Belasco to the clients. He takes the orb and he gets his orders. The last time that they met, he was able to convince the clients really of his influence. They do mean to do business with Iron Man, at least eventually. This partnership, it doesn't have to be consensual to flourish. That's the overall goal. They're gonna do something with Iron Man. They just don't know when. And as leverage, they're taking Vishti. This is the collateral. When the time comes, they're gonna come to Iron Man. They're gonna make a deal. And so if he wants Vishti back, he'll have to do the partnership. As Vishti disappears, he pretty much tells Iron Man, like, screw you, I'm gonna find a way to escape on my own, and once I do escape hell, the Ironmonger is coming to kill you. So with everybody going off in their own directions, Bucky really having enough of everything going on, Black Widow going off and doing her own thing, and Tony headed back to Stark Tower. Tony still has to deal with Doom. Now, he came to a meeting with Doom, on a little hologram, all that good stuff. And Doom's really letting him know, I'm not making a weapons deal with you. Per usual, Doom does his usual thing. You're a subject of Doom. You are what Doom says you are, yada, yada, yada. Really, it all comes down to Tony Stark's influence. He's one of the most powerful, influential figures in the status quo that he had ended. And so the other holdouts, they kind of look up to him and his allies. Wilson, Strange, Danvers, T'Challa, Richards, all of them. They all look up to Tony. He tells them that before you provoke me again, you better choose wisely. This means pretty much any weapons deal that was on the table for Tony, it's out the door now, which is kind of what he wanted already. So when Ramon shows up, they start discussing the new direction that they're going to take the company. They're going to start fabricating semiconductors. The Cavalry, she's still staying on board. And as we close out, the last thing that we get is a conversation between Black Widow and Tony Stark. She's really just coming to check on Tony. Things have been freaking crazy lately, and today has been an exceptionally hard day. And Tony, he admits, like, you were right. You were right, and I wouldn't listen to you. But Tony was angry. He was determined to stop an evil man who had conquered the world. She says that you can thank me by sticking to the plan that Maria Hill came up with. The one in One World Under Doom, issue number 6. And though his armor did get junked up, he still got the Silver Centurion. All of his other armors are soon going to be back online. So his improvised armor, it was short-lived. But the Repulse Sword, Tony thinks that he's gonna keep that one. And that is where this issue will end. The next time we're gonna see Tony Stark in anything that's headlining is gonna be Iron and Frost, part of the Age of Revelation 16-issue series. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Not a bad way to close it out. It does suck, you know, ongoing series, they're just not long-lasting right now, and this is another reason that people like me, people like Blurred Without Fear, Ernie, you know, all those guys, they tell you to go out and buy the comic, because if you are enjoying it, the numbers matter, guys. They're important. So if you're enjoying a comic, you know, we cover these stories, but we're not giving you the full story. We're giving you the cliff notes. And so if there's a story, a comic in particular that you really love, go out there and start buying it. If you haven't already, go out and start supporting it. That's how we keep these ongoing series going. Because 10 issues for an Iron Man book is absolutely crazy considering it was supposed to be ongoing. And it's rather unfortunate for some writers because they don't get the opportunity to tell the full story that they wanted to tell. Like some of these stories, they get canceled. They have the potential to even be really great stories by the end, but they never get the chance to flush it out. And so they're having to rush. They're having to do this and do that. And then the story doesn't get the opportunity to truly live. And we saw that with this issue number 10, how they closed pretty much everything that was created in this 10 issues. They closed it out all except the sword. The sword was really the only thing that stuck around from this 10 issues of Tony Stark. His business before this was already headed in the direction of getting away from weapons. I guess the cavalry added to his roster of allies is a new thing. I am excited to see what eventually happens and what becomes with Belasco. That seems to be a promising storyline, but you know how it goes. They get a new writer on here, and it could very easily just disappear into the mythos of Marvel. All in all, though, not a bad series, very enjoyable. I cannot wait to get some more Iron Man. I know it's hard right now for an Iron Man fan. The books that we're getting just aren't big, they're not long lasting. Hopefully someone comes along and can just write the most absolutely astounding Iron Man book so that it sticks around for quite a while. I mean, hell, at this point, put Jonathan Hickman on Iron Man. That's why you guarantee that you're going to get a fleshed out story. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you would like to get caught up on everything going on with this series, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It'll get you caught up on all 10 issues that have come out. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having multiple different tiers. From $1 to $50 from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel tremendously, you are getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you're unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.